Hey everyone, opening shots, 12-inch AR-500 steel plates, 3/8 of an inch thick. Shots were coming in from approximately 60 yards, and I knew I'd get a divot out of these, but I was really curious to see how much of a divot I would get compared to other 223 or 5.56 ammo that I've tagged these plates with at a short distance. We have two supposedly different types of ammo here from Federal, the FUSION and the FUSION MSR, both 223 Remington, both 62 grain, and I guess you would classify this as a soft point. So what's the MSR? Well, I think you get a glimpse of that on the packaging. That's an MSR, modern sporting rifle. This is the Bushmaster Predator, 20-inch barrel, 1-to-8 twist. Those were the opening shots coming out of this rifle. We're going to use it for our block shot here, or block shots, in just a couple of minutes. So what's different about this ammo? This is the back of the FUSION packaging. You see the advertised velocity, 3,000 feet per second. We'll check that in just a moment. But they have 4 key selling points. This special tip for long-range expansion. B, molecular fused jacket, which translates to better weight retention and also a bonded bullet. Optimized boat tail profile. We don't see that actually in a lot of the 223 loads that we're testing for hunting purposes. And then D, the pressure formed core. That's also going to make a major contribution toward weight retention. And I think what we'll see is that most, if not all of these, carry over as characteristics for the MSR. Now we're looking at the back of the MSR packaging. You'll notice the velocity is 250 feet per second slower. I don't understand that. Just because I'm using the AR-15 platform, it can handle it. So I don't understand that lower velocity. Point A, primer compatible with rifles that have the free-floating firing pin. The AR platform. Also tied to the AR platform is point B, the faster burning powder for your 16 to 20-inch barrels. And the visual confirmation, if you're holding both of these cartridges side by side, is point D. Military-style colored iris or on the shoulder. The MSR, in appearance, looks more like 5.56 NATO ammo. I'm still wondering, what's the big difference? And now for the velocity check, because on the surface, this seems to be the only element that could actually impact performance. 3,000 feet per second advertised. Here are the 5 shots measured at 20 feet from the Bushmaster Predator. You can see we're coming in low. And the average is 2,892 feet per second. That's 3.5% lower than the advertised. I can work with that. And now for the MSR, advertised 2,750 feet per second. That's coming in about 20% less on muzzle energy than its sibling. But that may not matter. Here are my 5 shots. No, I am not kidding. And there is the average, 2,951 feet per second. 7% higher than the advertised and coming in higher than the actual of its sibling. And I checked a second box of the MSR, same lot number, and came in at 2,946 feet per second on those 5 shots. So what the heck is going on? This is getting really confusing. This is a block of the sim test. It is 22 inches in length, weighs approximately 50 pounds. I've calibrated this so it is very comparable to 10% ordnance gel. And let's see, the current block temp is 59.1 degrees. That's just about perfect. 2 shots at 50 yards, first with the FUSION and then the FUSION MSR. That worked out well. Shots placed exactly where I needed, so I don't risk overlapping the channels. No pass-through on either. So let's break out the knife. This is the first half of that first shot. I'm going to call that the fast FUSION. And we start to open up at about a ½ inch in. You can see my measurements there. This runs approximately 3 inches in this direction, and that carries on to about the 6.5 inch mark. Very large permanent cavity. Let me show you up close. A little bit of lead fragmentation, but not much compared to some other things I've tested recently. But look at this. That is about 1.5 inches deep, especially when you get in right there. So we have a very large permanent cavity from the faster FUSION, running about 6 to 6.5 inches in length and 3 inches in diameter. This is the second half of that first shot. Now we're going to work on the recovered bullet. But again, just to show you, this is really nasty on this side, running that 6.5 inch permanent cavity and about 3 inches in diameter. So that's going to be quite traumatic on a deer at 50 yards. Now moving on to the recovered bullet, we don't have to go very far for that. It's coming in at 9 1/8 inches on that leading edge. That is it. Now it looks like it held together fairly well. I have seen a little bit of fragmentation, but this is a bonded bullet. Check that out. That's some really, really huge expansion, but not a lot of penetration. But the other side of this is we had a massive permanent cavity. This is the first half we're going to look at from the MSR, the second shot. Took a little bit longer to get that expansion going on this one because of the slower velocity. It really kicks in at about 2 to 2.5 inches, and not quite as large as the permanent cavity on the faster one. This is running, say, from the 2, maybe 3 inch mark out to about the 7 inch mark. So I'm going to say 4.5 to 5 inches on the length of this cavity, but the diameter is quite similar. It's running about 3 inches down in there. This is 1.5 on this side. I'm going to multiply that by 2, obviously. So the permanent cavity and diameter is about the same, but in length it is not quite as long. I noticed a little bit more fragmentation on this one than I did the faster Fusion. And now looking at the second half of the MSR shot path, and obviously the cavitation is going to be very similar, about 3.5 inches. What about the penetration? It is about the same as what we had with the sibling, with the Fusion, and it's coming in about 9 1/8, maybe 9 1/4, and at a glance the expansion profile looks very similar. It appears that Federal is using the same bullet with these cartridge options, but implementing some cosmetic and propellant elements for the MSR. If Federal indeed produces the MSR at its 2750 feet per second advertised velocity, it might be a game changer when deciding between the two. Otherwise, expansion at this distance is a toss-up, and retained weight is favoring the standard Fusion due to its slightly lower velocity. I feel that either is a good choice on medium-sized game in the 150-yard or less range, as the permanent cavity is quite impressive and provides potential for dropping the animal on the spot or hopefully after only a short run. Thanks for watching.